Welcome to Creative Piecemeal Podcast, a podcast for creatives. I'm your host, Tammy Takeishi. Join me for compelling conversations with artists, actors, authors, musicians, and other creatives about the impact of the creative and fine arts in their lives and our ever-changing world. Thank you for listening. Hello, welcome to another episode of Creative Piecemeal. I'm your host, Tammy Takeishi. Today, I am joined by Chicago-based mezzo-soprano Mallory Harding. She most recently performed with the Haymarket Opera in their filmed production of Acis and Galatea, and previously covered the role of Maxualinda and sang in the chorus in their production of The Dragon of Wantley by John Frederick Lampe. She's also the founding member and artistic director of New Moon Opera. You can read her full bio in the show notes, but Mallory and I go way, way back to our college days. So welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Tammy. It's really great to see you again.
Yeah, it's so nice to reconnect and see where people have gone since we've all turned our tassels.
Yeah, really. It's pretty impressive what some of our colleagues are up to now.
Definitely is. We're going to sort of throw back to a question on how you got your start. So who or what inspired you to become a musician and, of course, a vocalist?
Ella Fitzgerald is one of my biggest inspirations. And I remember when I was in middle school, I got my first boombox, which some people listening might not even know what a boombox is, but it's basically like a little CD player that has its own speakers. And so my dad got me some CDs with it, and Ella Fitzgerald was one of the CDs, and I just got really into her singing, and it made me want to become a singer. And I was already like into singing. Like I've been singing in church choir since I was actually in kindergarten. My parents put me in because I was annoyingly performing for them all the time. So I've always been singing, but Ella Fitzgerald is like my hugest inspiration for like getting serious about it.
Oh, that's wonderful. Do you still dabble in listening to jazz?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Jazz is actually one of my favorite genres to listen to just for fun. I really love Esperanza Spalding, and I'm going to go see her at the Ravinia Festival near Chicago this summer, so I'm really excited.
That is really nice. Well, speaking of some of your favorite artists, who are some of your more favorite modern artists? And then on the flip side, who are some of your favorite composers?
Let's see. So some of my favorite like modern artists, especially as far as singers go, is Jamie Barton. I really love her. She's a mezzo-soprano. I really love her. And Anita Rakvelishvili. I don't know if I'm saying her name right because she's Georgian, so her name is really hard for me to say, but those two are some of my favorite like current musicians that are performing a lot right now that I really look up to, and I listen to them all the time to try to emulate them and like learn from how they're singing their repertoire. As far as composers, I have a friend actually, her name is Elizabeth Rudolph, and she's one of my favorite composers right now. I just really enjoy listening to her music, and I've gotten to sing some of it. And my opera company has also produced one of her, like a workshop kind of thing of one of her operas. So she's one of my favorite living composers to listen to, and it's been really fun getting to actually like work with her like that. And I also love Ravel, Satie, and Debussy, and it might be like a weird list for a singer because it's not like they wrote like operas, but I really like their art song and their piano music. I play piano, not as well as I sing, but I really love playing their music. It's just really fun.
I completely get you there. Like the Impressionist composers, they just wrote really beautiful music, and it sort of transports you back in time when you listen to them.
Yeah, absolutely. It really kind of puts like a whole mood and a different filter on everything that you see when you're hearing the music.
So you are a vocalist and you're in opera and you also teach. What is one of your favorite things about being in your career field?
As far as opera goes, the main thing that I love so much about doing opera is the fact that it encompasses like so many of the different artistic disciplines in one thing. Wagner called it, as you know, Gesamtkunstwerk. Hopefully I'm saying that right. But it just means like how in like opera there's acting, there's singing, there's also instruments playing, and there's usually dancing and the costumes and the wigs and the sets and the backgrounds. It's all this different art that like all comes together. So that's really my favorite part about it.
Nice. And you've been in several different operas, but if you could name like your dream opera, dream role, and dream venue, what would that be?
Well, I would love to sing the title role in La Cenerentola by Rossini. And I did get the opportunity, luckily, to play one of the evil stepsisters when we were at Mizzou, actually. But now I would love to be Angelina, the Cinderella character. I don't know if anyone would actually cast me as that, but if I had my choice, I would cast myself. And I mean, I guess, I don't know. I love the Chopin Theater. I don't know, maybe that's aiming too small, but in Chicago, there's the Chopin Theater, and it's really cool. And I really like going there because it's so old and it has all these weird little details. So I would love to sing Rossini's La Cenerentola there.
And if you had to do any musical, what would that be?
I'm not as familiar with musicals, but I do really love Thoroughly Modern Millie. I don't know if I could actually play any of the characters in it because they all have to dance and I don't really dance. But I love that musical. It's so fun. I actually got to play in the pit orchestra because I play clarinet also, and I played in the pit for that in college. And I like sometimes the music just pops in my head. I just love it so much. But if maybe a more realistic musical theater character for me to play would be Marion in The Music Man, and I would absolutely love to play her.
Oh my gosh, that's one of my absolute favorite musicals ever.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah, it's so
Did you ever play in the pit for it?
No, I never did, but I have early memories because both my sisters were in, they're about 8 and 9 years older than me, and they were in The Music Man when they were in high school, and so I was a little kid, and so I have really fond memories of that particular musical, so it really stuck with me.
Yeah, well, and it's so cool that it's a little bit about like music and like band too.
Mhm.
I don't know, just as the young band geek inside me, I was in it in middle school, so it was just, yeah, it was very cool for me.
Nice. We're going to switch gears to for sort of a teaching side of Mallory. And what is a piece of advice that you ignore, whether it's career-wise or music lesson-wise? And what is one that you always follow?
So I went to undergrad for music education. So when I was doing my student teaching, I was placed with a teacher in a choir, in a high school choir. And to be honest, we really didn't vibe very well together. And he always would tell me before we ever started, before the kids ever got there that school year, he kept telling me how I need to make sure that I draw a line in the sand between me and the students because I'm so close in age to them, and I need to really make sure that I act as the teacher and I don't get too informal with them. I remember, strangely enough, after 2 months of being there, his feedback was, well, it seems like you've drawn a line in the sand and that you really aren't relating to the kids. And so I never listened to that advice, especially as a private lessons teacher. I really don't think that there needs to be any kind of line drawn in the sand or any kind of formal kind of relationship in that way. I mean, I want my students to respect me, but like, I don't treat them like they're just little mini kids. Like, that's not who they are. They are artists too, and I treat them that way, and I don't think that there needs to be a line in the sand between us because they're my equals. They're just less experienced in music than I am.
Very good point there. Is there a piece of music advice you always follow?
Probably just like what I remember my band teacher saying all the time, which was read everything on the page.
That's hard to do sometimes.
It really is, but it really will tell you everything you need to know. If it's a great composer, at least.
Yes.
Whether it's piano or singing, I really think that's very true.
Yeah. I'm always amazed when teaching and kids are like, well, what key is this in? Or what position am I playing? And I'm like, it's on the page. Look at the beginning of the music.
Or they say, oh, well, I don't know how to play this. And I'm like, well, the instructions are right there. You read music, right?
Yeah. Oh gosh, it's always so funny, isn't it? Speaking a little bit about music and teaching, do you have a favorite memory from whether it's teaching or performing that you're able to share? Favorite or funny?
I remember, I was looking for your list of questions, so I'll be honest, I did have this one prepared. A really funny memory that I was thinking of was when I performed with Vox 3, which is a local Chicago group here, and they're called 3 because they do cabaret, art song, and opera. I think that's the 3 things, but they just do a lot of different stuff, and they're a really fun group of people to work with. So this particular memory was from a cabaret we were doing at a bar in Chicago. It's always so fun to do these cabarets. We get a theme, and then there's just a master list of lots of different songs that fit that theme, and they can be any genre. So on the concert, you're going to hear opera, you're going to hear rock and roll, you're going to hear musical theater, maybe bluegrass. It's very diverse. So we had a theme that was the dog and pony show. And one of the singers decided that we should do Genuine's song called Pony. Like, do you know that song?
Maybe if I heard it, I don't necessarily know it by name.
I won't sing it for you, but for those who know, you know that this song is it's a little inappropriate, and everyone had hobby horses, like those with the horse head and then the stick. And so we had some choreography with these horses kind of taking this a little bit inappropriate song called Pony, like riding a pony, and there was this choreography to it, and it was the funniest thing. It got the hugest laugh in the whole audience. Like, it was so funny. I still laugh when I hear the song. It's very, very silly, but very fun.
It sounds like you've had opportunities to do a really wide variety of things so far in your musical career.
Yeah, that's true. That is true. Yeah. I've been really lucky in that way. And luckily, the voice training that I've done has kind of prepared me to sing lots of different styles too, which is fun.
Is there anything that you haven't had a chance to sing, but you'd really like to?
That's a good question. Like, I've never been cast as Carmen in the opera Carmen, although being told that I would be a good Carmen is what made me switch to from singing as soprano to singing as a mezzo-soprano, but I've never actually been cast as Carmen, and I would love to play her.
Nice. This has absolutely nothing to do with music, but you live in Chicago, which is a touristy town, and there's also a lot of great eats. So what are the top 3 meals that you'd recommend someone who visits your part of the country?
Oh, that's a good question. You know what, Tammy, I'll be honest with you. I don't really go out to eat that much here, but I definitely know that when people come here, like when we actually did a band tour, or not a band tour, a choir tour at Mizzou, and we came to Chicago, and everyone was really crazy about Portillo's, believe it or not. Have you had Portillo's before?
I've heard of it. I heard they have really good sandwiches.
Yeah, like it's kind of like Italian beefs and stuff like that you kind of think of like when you think of typical Chicago kind of working class meal or something. I don't know. Another one is Morton's Steakhouse. It's kind of a chain, but like that's one of my favorite restaurants here. I don't go out to eat all that much, but there's a ton of really great Indian food also in the north side of the city on Devon Avenue, and I love to go there. Like Khan Barbecue is probably my favorite, but I honestly haven't been to that many restaurants during this whole global incident. So
true. Yeah, I guess that does put a damper on wanting to go explore different cuisines.
Yes, absolutely.
As a follow-up to that question, do you have a favorite after concert meal?
always like to just go with the classic pizza. And it's because it fills me up, it's greasy, and you can just eat it right down. But it's also like easy to get because, usually your family is going to come to your concert and then you got to figure out where you guys are going to go afterwards. It's easy to just say, let's go get pizza.
I think one of mine is probably like a burger and fries because you can get that just about anytime, anywhere.
That's so true. Yeah, because a lot of times the show is done late and then you got to figure out where you can go eat.
Switching back to music questions, a little more serious, did you have any barriers, internal or external, to reaching this point in your career that you would feel comfortable sharing?
Yeah, well, I feel like for a long time I was relying on external validation and other people telling me like, yeah, that's the right way to sing, or yeah, that's the right way you act, or that's the right way, whatever. And now, I mean, that was really hard for me. It's a lack of confidence mostly. And with experience and perseverance, I've just gained the experience that I needed to get more confident. And I've had a lot of really awesome encouragements from my teachers and coaches to gain the confidence that I needed. Once you stop worrying about what's the right way to sing, you can just entertain people because that's what it's all about. And it just makes it so much more fun. Yeah, it's just a way better result too.
Nice. Do you find that the last few years with the pandemic, has that changed anything for you positively or negatively with what you do in the arts?
It's definitely put a damper on my career, that's for sure, to be honest with you. I was actually getting some pretty good momentum going right before the pandemic hit, and then things were canceled, and it was really sad, honestly. But I mean, I'm excited that new things are starting up again, and my company is going to be coming back in the fall a little bit, so things are looking up. But I'm just grateful now whenever I do get to sing, even if it's just at my weekly church choir job. I do definitely I view it differently, and I'm a lot more thankful for just being able to sing with other people. So even if it's not like the most stimulating music all the time, or it's just singing in unison or something, I'm a lot more grateful for it. So that's really changed the way I look at every job that I have now. If I get to sing, I'm happy.
Yeah, I think that's probably affected a lot of musicians, gigging musicians and things like that, or people who have their own music studios. They're not that they weren't thankful before, but it just sort of puts things into a little more perspective.
Absolutely. Yes, it does.
Some people have taken up other hobbies and creative things during this time. Did you by chance dabble in anything else?
Oh yeah, I mean, I've always been into different hobbies and stuff and didn't have a lot of time to pursue them. So during the pandemic, when everything was really closed down, I took up knitting. My mom had always told me, "Oh, why don't you let me teach you knitting?" And I was always like, "No, I don't want to do it." And then finally I did, and it was really fun, and I really enjoy knitting now. And I've always loved to paint, with acrylic paints.
Oh,
and
nice.
So I got more into that. I mean, I'm no expert or anything, but I just like to play around and kind of try to imitate other painter styles, or even just paint little ceramic decorations to display for Christmas and stuff.
Very cool. Very cool. And I'm assuming it's probably just a nice sort of creative mental break to do something like knitting and painting that has nothing to do with music.
Yeah, it really is, because there's no pressure, you have to get better at this, or, you're not going to be ready for your gig or whatever. It's just for fun. So I don't have that pressure of being good at it.
I think it's so important for people who are in a creative field to have other creative outlets, like you said, that you don't have to do for a living. You had mentioned that you have an opera company. What is it like running your own opera company?
Well, it's really fun, and it's really hard. Yeah, I love doing it. I haven't really been able to do that much in the last couple years, but I'm getting really excited because we are starting to plan a small event for this fall, and it's really fun to like get back into just researching possible repertoire and going on IMSLP to look at the score, and it's very fun, and listening on YouTube and dreaming about what I would want it to be like if we didn't have a budget, what could it be like, and then paring things down from there. So yeah, it's really fun. I really love running New Moon, and I love working with the people that I work with. It's always been really fun, and we've gotten a lot of really amazing singers and people to work with us. So it's really great, but it is a lot of hard work too.
Yeah, I can imagine. What inspired you to launch your own company?
There's a lot of small companies in Chicago, like obviously like people that don't live here probably haven't, like, they don't know that, but they're like, besides Lyric Opera and Chicago Opera Theater, there are a lot of smaller storefront opera companies. Haymarket Opera is, I wouldn't consider them like a storefront company. They're like the best of these smaller companies. There's a lot of different companies that come and go, and I just thought, like, I could do this. I'm pretty organized. I've been a teacher, so I think I know what this would take to do something on a pretty small scale. And I've just been lucky to like work with people who are more professional than I am at certain things like branding and accounting and that kind of stuff that I don't have a lot of experience with. I get to work with people now who do know about that stuff, and so slowly they've helped New Moon go from just like this small thing that me and like a couple other people were doing and like trying to make happen to like a legitimate 501c3. And we have our logo that a professional person made, and we have like stuff like that it's not as like fun for me, but like now I have the people that have the know-how to get that stuff done, so it's really cool.
That's great. And where can people find New Moon, whether it's online or if they want to go see a show in the future?
Well, if you visit newmoonopera.org, you can find information about us there, and you can also follow us on Facebook if you just look up New Moon Opera, or on Instagram. New Moon Opera is our handle.
Wonderful. And I'll put that in the show notes as well. Digging into the questions here. In teaching and also with running your company, where do you think you would be in 5 years? Like, what is your goal in about a 5-year time frame?
I would love to be, as far as teaching goes, I would love to be teaching more singer students or more people who are like getting serious about music. Like, I love teaching the young kids and stuff. It's great, but I would love to use my passion for vocal music and, just real piano repertoire to get people, like interested and like get prepared for college or something, or maybe even college students, because I would love to work on that kind of music with people who are like really into it and have a little more experience. Would be really fun for me. And as far as my opera company goes, I would just love for us to be performing, at least one fully staged opera every year with a bigger venue, because, historically we've been in, church basements, and we've been moving slowly. We're inching up, getting our venue better and better. And I would love for us to be in more of a real theater, albeit a small one, and hopefully have, some kind of chamber orchestra playing with us, and, doing operas at just a higher production level and involving more artists.
Nice. I definitely think that if you keep going on your path, you'll definitely get there. You have such drive and such passion for what you do.
Thanks. I hope so.
I'm curious, what is one stereotype about being a musician that you're hoping to break with your work?
I think one stereotype that even some musicians have is that singers aren't musicians. And I mean, like, not to be bitter or something, but that is one thing that a lot of people just think, you open your mouth and you sing. Actually singing well, it's supposed to sound natural and like it's easy for you, but it's not. Ella Fitzgerald sounds like the most natural singer in the world, but she still practiced and listened to other people and learned from other people. And, as a singer, you do have to know music theory. You probably do have to play piano to some extent. You have to really be able to read your music, and it's not like a piano, where you say, oh, that's an F, and then you press the F key and F comes out. When you're a singer, you have to be able to find those notes. And I just think that some people don't realize actually how challenging singing really is, because it does sound natural, and the best singers make it sound like that. So
very true. It is so much harder than it seems, for sure. What advice do you have for young vocalists wanting to go to college and then become a professional?
I would say you have a lot of resources available as far as internet goes. So use those, because I've taught myself so much from just the internet and listening on YouTube. There's a lot of amazing old master classes that you can go and listen to. And I just think if the internet was around when I was in high school, but it certainly wasn't as developed as it is now. But if I had had the wherewithal to go looking on the internet for information, I'm sure I could have found it and been more knowledgeable about the things that I wanted to study, because honestly, I really didn't know that much about opera when I decided that I wanted to be an opera singer. I would say that if people want to become, some kind of musician, use the internet to your advantage. Go online and just listen to some people on YouTube, and then that'll lead you in a chain of different people to listen to, or people to research on Wikipedia even. And if you're a classical musician, obviously you got to go to IMSLP. That's another resource that has scores in it. I always say that's one of my goals for my students, is to be able to just go online and say, I want to learn this song, print it out and start learning it. Just I want young singers to know, you can do that too. You can just say, I want to learn this song and start learning it. Just do it. Go for it.
Is that something that you wish you'd known when you first started down your musical path?
Oh yeah, for sure. I just feel I could be so much farther along if I had that knowledge to begin with, and that encouragement that you can just learn a song. It's not gonna, unless you're really singing way too high or way too loud, you're not gonna hurt yourself. Just play around and experiment with stuff. Or, you don't need permission to be an artist. Just try something.
I love that you don't need permission to be an artist. That's so true.
Yeah.
The important thing is just trying and experiencing the art and seeing what happens.
Right, because that's where the most interesting things come from.
How has your life in the creative arts been different than you imagined?
To be honest with you, I was thinking, I'm so good at singing, I'm probably going to be a famous opera singer, maybe. I really thought that. Tammy.
It's good to be that confident.
It's so weird, because I know I said earlier that I didn't have a lot of confidence, but I did have confidence in my ability to get better. So I really thought I was going to make my entire living from singing opera. I guess I didn't think I was going to be famous, but I just thought I was going to be Renee Fleming, or somebody that just sings. That's all they do. I didn't think that I was going to have as many different jobs as I have. I definitely didn't think that I was going to finish a master's in music and then go be a caregiver for a 92-year-old man. I've had some interesting jobs that had nothing to do with music, and I had no idea when I decided to go into music that it was going to be like that. That's just how it was going to have to be able to pursue being a professional musician, especially in opera. It's a very expensive career. So I never thought that I would be teaching and doing I don't have any of those random jobs anymore. But I've worked my way up to that, to being able to teach, fill my schedule with all these students, to be able to make that work. And yeah, I really thought I was just going to sing opera every day, all day. And that was how it was going to be.
That would be glorious, right?
Wouldn't it? Yeah.
I think we all aspire to get there in our creative careers, to just be able to do that one singular focus. But especially nowadays, even if you do that, you have to manage social media, or maybe you're managing some other aspects of a business.
Yeah.
It is what it is.
It's true. And I'm sure that I wouldn't be the same person I am today if I hadn't had all these other weird random jobs. I definitely learn a lot from teaching. So I'm glad, and I do really love teaching private lessons because I've definitely learned a lot through that. So like I'm not like, although I would love to sing opera all day every day, I'm not sad that I'm a teacher because I do love teaching too.
Yeah. And then you get to inspire a whole another generation of young singers and pianists.
Absolutely, yeah. Well, and I guess I never thought I would have my own opera company either. It sounds a lot more like prestigious than it really is. If you all knew what the work consisted of and the venues that, I've sung in with my company. But you know what? It's really fun. And I never thought that I would be in charge of an opera company.
That's exciting though. And it just goes to show that you never know what can happen if you just open your mind and try something.
Yeah, that's so true. Yeah, it took a lot of guts just to start my own company and not worry about what other people think about it.
Very true. One last question. In your own words, what does living a creative life mean to you?
I definitely think living a creative life, it doesn't have to mean that you make a living doing your art, but I just think you get inspired by nature, or you get immersed into a movie or a TV show, or you notice all the colors in the sky or stuff like that. That's living a creative life to me, and that's being an artist. And I don't think that it matters how you make your living, whether you're living a creative life or not.
Yeah. Oh, that's very beautiful. It's a really nice thought. Excellent. Well, Mallory, thank you so much for coming on the show. Listeners, please check out the show notes and give New Moon Opera a follow. And if you're in the Chicago area, definitely check out Mallory in various performances across the city. And as always, thanks for listening. Thanks for listening to the podcast. Like the show? Have a question? Stop by the Facebook and Instagram pages. Links are in the show notes, or search for Creative Piecemeal Podcast on social media and click follow for all the latest.